The ancient alliance of wind and bone. The epic story of the hawk. Welcome, my friends. Let's take a journey together. Today, this evening, we are soaring into the world of the Accipitridae, the hawks, the eagles, and the quiet guardians of our forests. They have spent the last 30 million years perfecting the art of the aerial takedown. While our ancestors were busy learning how to build a fire, these birds were already setting them, using the smoke to flush out a quick meal. But to truly understand these biological masterpieces, we have to look past their feathers, deep into their history, their minds, and the very laws of physics. We begin our story with a complete rewrite of the genetic code. Let's get the family drama out of the way first. You might look at a hawk and a falcon and think they are close cousins, but genetically, they are about as related as a lion is to a house cat. In the Great Book of Life, most birds are remarkably conservative. For over 250 million years, dating all the way back to the dinosaurs, most birds have kept the exact same ancestral genetic template, a genome made of 80 chromosomes, or what scientists write as the formula 2 niquis 80. But the ancestors of the true hawks decided to tear up the rulebook. In a massive evolutionary reboot, they fused and reshaped their chromosomes, condensing their genetic code down to about 66 chromosomes, or 2n66. Meanwhile, falcons took an entirely different path of cellular rebellion, dropping their chromosome numbers even lower to between 40 and 54. This structural divide is so deep that modern science places hawks and falcons in completely different orders. It is a striking reminder that nature can arrive at the same beautiful design through completely different pathways. Deep in the ancient forests of Poland, a tiny predator started a 30-million-year-old dance. Finding hawk fossils is like looking for a needle in a haystack. Their bones are filled with air, making them so light and delicate that they usually crumble to dust long before they can turn to stone. But once in a while, the earth yields a miracle. 30 million years ago, during the Oligocene epoch, much of modern-day Poland was covered by a warm, shallow sea, bordered by dense coastal forests. It was here, preserved beautifully on double rock plates, thanks to the oxygen-poor conditions of the ancient seabed, that scientists found Avaraptor longicrus. He was a tiny predator, barely half the size of a modern sparrowhawk, with exceptionally long legs and a short beak, perfectly designed for plucking feathers. Avaraptor coexisted with some of the earliest songbirds in the Northern Hemisphere, such as the seed-eating Crosnornis and the delicate, lark-sized Jamna. The sudden explosion of these small, tasty forest dwellers created an evolutionary spark. It triggered the rise of small, agile bird-eating raptors, making Avaraptor one of the earliest examples of predator and prey evolving in lockstep. At the very same time, across the globe, other branches of the family tree were taking root. In Wyoming, the fossil Paleoplancus damani was establishing the hawk's footprint in the New World. While in the dense canopy of ancient Australia, Archaehyrax sylvestris was weaving through the trees, a direct precursor to the forest eagles of today. Flight is not just about flapping, but a masterpiece of biological pulleys. If you were to build a hawk in a lab, you would need a degree in advanced mechanical engineering. To get airborne, hawks use a skeletal pulley system that would make an engineer weep. When we think of flight, we think of the downward flap, powered by the massive chest muscles that make up most of a bird's breast. But how does a hawk lift its wings back up with such lightning-fast, effortless recovery? Instead of using muscles on their backs, hawks keep all their heavy muscle mass centered near their bellies for perfect balance. To lift the wing, a specialized muscle on their chest called the supracoracoideus pulls on a long tendon. This tendon runs upward and passes through a tiny, smooth, bony tunnel called the trioceal canal, which is formed where the collarbone, shoulder blade, and coracoid meet. This canal acts as a natural pulley. It loops the tendon over the shoulder and attaches it to the top of the wing bone. When the chest muscle contracts, it pulls the tendon downward, which snaps the wing upward. This pulley system is incredibly precise. In biomechanical studies at Washington State University, when researchers surgically snipped this single tendon in pigeons and cockatiels, they became completely unable to lift their wings, rendering them flightless. Yet, when a nearby shoulder ligament was accidentally snipped instead of the tendon, the birds flew perfectly the very next day. Primitive flyers like the famous dinosaur bird Archaeopteryx lacked this bony pulley entirely, meaning they had to work much harder, using muscles on their backs just to flap. It was only when this modern pulley evolved that explosive, rapid takeoffs became possible. To breathe in the sky, you must learn to move air in only one direction. To power such a high-performance flight engine, hawks have evolved a breathing system that puts ours to shame. When we breathe, we take air into our lungs and push it right back out the same way. It's a two-way street, which means fresh air always mixes with stale, used air. But a hawk's lungs are small, rigid, and completely static. They never expand or contract. Instead, they use a network of 9 thin-walled, balloon-like air sacs that act like a set of bellows, pushing air through the lungs in one continuous unidirectional flow. It actually takes 2 complete breaths for a single puff of air to make its way all the way through a hawk's body. Because of this one-way stream, fresh oxygen-rich air is constantly washing over their lung tissues, even when they are exhaling. This allows them to extract nearly 25% more oxygen from the air than mammals, giving them the stamina to perform high G turns at altitudes where we would be gasping for breath. And their hollow, air-filled bones, they are directly connected to this breathing system. These bones are not actually lighter than ours. Instead, they are engineered like high-performance tubes with wider, thinner, and denser walls. This makes them incredibly stiff and strong to withstand the crushing stresses of high-speed chases, while also acting as internal air conditioners to cool the bird down from the inside during intense exercise. The sky is painted with glowing neon trails that only a hawk can see to hunt from the heavens. You need a pair of eyes that function like high-powered telescopes. A hawk's eyes are so massive that if they were scaled to our size, they would be as large as big oranges, meeting in the middle of their skull and leaving very little room for a brain. Because they are so large, they cannot roll in their sockets, which is why hawks do that characteristic, stabilized head bobbing to scan their surroundings. To protect these delicate organs, they are held rigid by the sclerotic ring, a circular puzzle of 11 to 16 overlapping bony plates. These plates overlap in a highly specific pattern, with overplates and underplates consistently fitting together. This ring anchors specialized muscles that physically reshape the cornea, allowing hawks to rapidly change focus and keep their prey in sight during high-speed dives. While we have only one sweet spot of high resolution in our eyes, most diurnal hawks have 2 foveas per eye, a central one for scanning sideways, and a temporal one looking straight ahead for binocular, 3-dimensional distance calculation. With up to 1 million color-detecting cone cells per square millimeter, 5 times more than a human, their vision is up to 12 times sharper than ours, and they see colors we can only dream of. Thanks to a fourth type of color cone and specialized oil filters, hawks have near-ultraviolet vision. For open country hunters like the kestrel or the rough-legged hawk, this is the ultimate hunting tool. Small rodents like voles and mice constantly mark their runways with urine, which reflects ultraviolet light. To a hawk soaring high above, these trails glow like bright fluorescent neon paths, leading them straight to their next meal. The necessity of this binocular vision is clear. Take Amelia, a female American kestrel cared for by the Washington State University Raptor Club. After colliding with a tree, she lost the use of her right eye. Though she can still fly, she lost the binocular depth perception needed to hunt, requiring a lifetime of human care. Intercepting a target is a beautiful dance with the laws of mathematics. When a hawk pursues its prey, it does not simply chase where the animal is right now. That is called classical pursuit, and it is highly inefficient because it forces the hunter into a long, curved chase. Instead, they use an elegant strategy called constant absolute target direction, or CATD. The hawk flies along a path that keeps the angle of its line of sight to the prey perfectly constant relative to the earth. By maintaining this parallel path, the hawk is always flying toward where the prey is going to be, rather than where it is. This not only provides the shortest and most energy-efficient route, but it also creates a form of motion camouflage. Because the relative angle never changes, the approaching hawk appears completely motionless against the distant forest background. To the prey, the predator looks like a static object that is simply growing larger, delaying their escape until it is too late. To balance this precision, forest hawks like the goshawk rely on their wing-loading ratio, which is their mass, m, divided by their wing area. A lower wing loading allows them to fly slowly and maneuver with surgical precision, dodging branches in dense canopies. This is quite different from falcons like the peregrine, which execute high-speed vertical dives using a proportional navigation guidance law. This law commands the bird's turning rate to be directly proportional to the change in the line of sight angle. While military missiles use a high value of n between 3 and 5, falcons use an incredibly optimized, gentler value of less than 3 to avoid blacking out under extreme forces. On the sun-baked plains of Australia, some hawks have learned to play with fire. For thousands of years, Australia's Aboriginal people have sung stories about sacred firehawks, raptors that use fire to hunt. Today, science has confirmed that black kites, whistling kites and brown falcons actively spread wildfires. When a wildfire is blocked by a river, road or firebreak, these clever birds will descend to the edge of the flames, pick up smoldering sticks in their talons or beaks, and carry them up to a kilometer away into dry, unburnt grass. This starts a new fire, flushing out a fresh wave of panicked lizards, mice, and grasshoppers straight into their waiting talons. It is a highly strategic, learned behavior. Firefighters have observed that only a few mature, highly experienced birds in a flock can execute it successfully, while younger birds try and fail. It challenges the long-held belief that only humans can manipulate fire. From armored bee-eaters to the synchronized wolf packs of the desert skies, the diversity of hawk behavior is staggering. In Ohio, long-term studies by Cheryl Dijkstra have shown that individual red-shouldered hawks have distinct, repeatable personalities along a bold to shy axis. Suburban hawks accustomed to living near humans are much bolder than rural ones, actively dive-bombing and striking researchers to defend their young. Interestingly, This aggressiveness is directly tied to nest height. Hawks that build their nests closer to the ground, where they are more vulnerable to predators like raccoons, display the most aggressive and courageous defense. Then we have the European honey buzzard, a bird of prey that doesn't eat meat at all, but specializes in digging up wasp and hornet nests. To survive the stings of thousands of angry insects, their faces are armored with dense scale-like feathers, which are even thought to contain a chemical repellent. Because their beaks are relatively weak, they rely on Batesian mimicry, sporting plumage that closely resembles the common buzzard, to trick formidable forest predators, like the northern goshawk, into leaving them alone. In the 19th century, their rich larval diet made their meat a culinary delicacy, written about by Thomas Bewick as fat and delicious. Though today they are protected and monitored as bioindicators of pesticide runoff. Every autumn, millions of broad-winged hawks embark on an epic, land-bound journey to South America. Because they rely on rising thermal columns of warm air to soar, they gather in massive, swirling groups called kettles, completely avoiding open salt water as they funnel through corridors like the Appalachian ridges. This journey was first formally counted at Pilot Mountain in 1973 by Ramona Snavely, a pioneering effort that grew into a massive network of modern hawkwatch sites. And in the arid American Southwest, the Harris's hawk hunts like a member of an aerial wolf pack. They form close family groups that hunt cooperatively, using relay chases to exhaust jackrabbits, flushing out prey in turns, and even engaging in backstanding, where up to 3 birds stack on top of each other's backs on a single cactus to gain a better view or share shade. Here they communicate silently, using the bright white bands on their tails, waving them like high-contrast signal flags to coordinate their strikes. This gentle, cooperative nature made them icons of modern falconry, a legacy shaped by a single legendary Texas-born hawk named White-wing. Caught in the 1980s, White-wing became the grandmother of her species, producing over 1,000 registered descendants that are flown by falconers today, carrying her genetic traits of trust, intelligence, and social harmony. The heavens once dictated a rigid class system for the kingdoms of the earth. Our relationship with these rulers of the sky is as old as civilization itself. To the ancient Egyptians, the hawk was the living embodiment of Horus, the god of kingship and the sky, whose right eye was the sun and whose left eye was the moon. The pharaoh was considered a living manifestation of Horus on earth, and they believed that after death the human soul, or Ba, would take the form of a hawk-headed bird to fly up to the heavens. By the Middle Ages, falconry became a strict mirror of social class. The 15th century Book of St. Albans, compiled by Dame Juliana Berners, codified a rigid law of the skies, declaring an eagle for an emperor, a gerfalcon for a king, a peregrine for a prince, a goshawk for a yeoman, a sparrowhawk for a priest, and a kestrel for a knave or servant. If you were of low birth, you were legally restricted to the humble kestrel, a historical detail that inspired Barry Hines's famous novel, A Kestrel for a Knave, telling the story of a troubled schoolboy who finds escape in training a kestrel named Kes. Meanwhile, in feudal Japan, the samurai class transformed Japanese falconry, or takagari, into a highly disciplined display of warrior spirit and peacetime governance. Under Shogun Tokugawa Ieyasu, the Suwa school of falconry developed a rigorous spiritual connection to the art, requiring practitioners to train their wrists with heavy water bottles to handle the massive, powerful hawks. Deep inside a 5,000-year-old tomb, we found the guardians of the dead. In the far north of Scotland, On the island of South Ronaldsay, we find the Isbister-chambered cairn, famously known as the Tomb of the Eagles. Discovered by Ronald Simerson, this ancient Neolithic tomb contained the bones of over 300 people alongside hundreds of bones and talons from white-tailed sea eagles. While early archaeologists imagined a dramatic sky, burial ritual where eagles stripped the flesh from the dead, modern radiocarbon dating in 2006 revealed a different, beautiful truth. The eagle bones were deposited up to 1,000 years after the human burials had stopped. This proved that for over a millennium, these coastal people returned to this ancestral vault to lay down sea eagles as sacred, timeless totems of their tribe. Bridging the gap between the living and the dead, even the most powerful emperors spent decades obsessing over how these birds actually work. Perhaps the most passionate falconer in history was the Holy Roman Emperor, Frederick II of Hohenstaufen, who spent 30 years writing the first true textbook of ornithology, De Arte Venandi cum Avibus. Frederick was a true scientist who sought to prove things through active experimentation. To resolve the ancient debate of whether vultures found their food by sight or smell, he temporarily stitched shut the eyelids of a group of vultures, leaving their nostrils open, and placed decaying meat in front of them. Because they ignored the food, Frederick concluded that vultures rely entirely on sight. It was a brilliant finding that was perfectly true for Old World vultures, though he missed the fact that New World turkey vultures possess an incredibly enlarged olfactory bulb designed to sniff out chemical plumes over dense forest canopies. Today, these ancient hunters face a silent, microscopic danger left behind in our forests. Today, these apex predators face a silent modern plague, lead poisoning. When big game hunters use lead ammunition, the bullets shatter upon impact into thousands of microscopic fragments. When hunters clean their harvest, they often leave the gut piles behind. Scavenging eagles feed on these remains during the lean winter months, accidentally ingesting the tiny lead pieces. Once swallowed, the highly acidic stomach juices of the eagle dissolve the lead, releasing it directly into their bloodstream. This causes devastating neurological damage. Affected eagles suffer from ataxia, a complete loss of balance and coordination, and clenched claw paralysis, where their talons lock spastically into tight fists, rendering them unable to perch or grasp food. Two Cornell Wildlife Health Lab studies show that nearly 1 in 8 bald eagles found dead in the Northeast died directly from lead poisoning. A tragic and entirely preventable drag on a species that had successfully rebounded from only 417 breeding pairs in 1963 to hundreds of thousands today. By simply switching to non-lead ammunition, we can almost completely eliminate this threat, keeping these watchful eyes in our skies. In the heart of New York City, a pale legend showed us how to survive the concrete jungle. Yet, amid these struggles, we find incredible stories of urban resilience, none more legendary than the saga of Pale Male, the beautiful, light-colored red-tailed hawk of Central Park. Arriving in 1991, Pale Male became a global celebrity and one of the first hawks ever observed successfully nesting on a building. The decorative stonework of 927 Fifth Avenue. His life was a high society soap opera, sharing his nest with mates like First Love, Chocolate, Blue Lola, and Octavia. Many of them fell victim to the hazards of the city, from poisoned pigeons to window collisions. In 2004, when the building's board evicted the hawks and stripped their nest, New Yorkers rose in massive public protest, standing in the freezing cold until the building capitulated and installed a stainless steel nesting cradle designed by architect. Dan Ionescu, pale male, passed away in May 2023 at the venerable age of 33, but his legacy lives on. His last mate, Octavia, recently attracted a handsome young mate named Stripes. In a delightful twist, the pair successfully hatched chicks in the spring of 2026, the first successful hatch at the nest since 2018. For years, watchers assumed Octavia was infertile due to her age, but this sudden success revealed that the infertile partner all those years was actually the aging legend, pale male himself. It is a beautiful ongoing testament to the resilience of nature in our modern world. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Until next time, keep your eyes on the skies, stay curious, and take care. The following is a list of 100 fun, informative, and factual facts about hawks, divided into 3 categories: physical characteristics and senses. Hawks can see up to 8 times more clearly than a human with 20/20 vision. A red-tailed hawk can spot a mouse on the ground from 100 feet in the air. They possess a nictitating membrane, a clear third eyelid, that protects and moistens the eye while maintaining visibility. In most hawk species, females are 25–35% larger and heavier than males. Their upper mandibles are sharply hooked to tear meat, as they cannot chew. The fleshy, waxy patch at the base of the beak is called the cirrus. Its color often indicates the bird's health or age. Hawk talons are made of keratin and can exert hundreds of pounds of pressure per square inch. Despite their size, a large female red-tailed hawk weighs only about 3 lbs, 1.4 kilo. Like most birds, their bones are hollow, pneumatized, to reduce weight for flight. Many species, like the Swainson's hawk, have light and dark morphs, making them look like entirely different species. Many hawk species are born with light-colored eyes that darken to deep brown or red as they reach maturity. They have a crop, a muscular pouch near the throat that stores food before it moves to the stomach. Most hawks have mottled brown or gray backs to blend into the canopy when viewed from above. Their undersides are often lighter to blend with the sky when viewed by prey from below. A hawk can have between 5,000 and 7,000 feathers. Some hawks, like the osprey, often grouped with hawks, can close their nostrils during dives. They have a uropedial gland near the tail that secretes oil used for waterproofing feathers. Flight and hunting. During a hunting stoop, dive, some hawks can exceed speeds of 120 mph to 193 km, average cruising. Speeds for hawks range between 20 and 40 mph. Hawks use thermals, columns of rising warm air, to gain altitude without flapping, saving massive amounts of energy. A group of hawks soaring together on a thermal is called a kettle. Buteos, like the red-tailed, have broad wings for soaring. Accipiters, like the Coopers, have short, rounded wings for maneuvering through trees. This is the technical term for the high-speed vertical dive a hawk uses to strike prey. The front edge of a hawk's wing is thickened to help maintain lift at low speeds. Almost all hawks are diurnal, meaning they hunt exclusively during daylight hours. Some hawks can hover in place against a strong wind, a behavior known as kiting. Many hawks spend hours sitting on telephone poles or high branches to conserve energy while scanning for movement. Harris's hawks are unique because they hunt in social groups, packs, similar to wolves. After a kill, a hawk will spread its wings over the prey to hide it from other predators. This is called mantling. Depending on the species, they eat rodents, snakes, lizards, fish, insects, and even other birds. Red-tailed hawks use their wings as a shield when fighting rattlesnakes to avoid being bitten in the body. Cooper's hawks have been observed holding prey underwater until it drowns. During peak seasons, a single Swainson's hawk can eat up to 100 grasshoppers in a day. Male sharp-shinned hawks often eat the head of their prey before bringing the rest back to the nest for the family. Hawks regurgitate pellets containing the indigestible fur and bones of their prey. Breeding and life cycle. Most hawk species mate for life. Courting pairs perform elaborate aerial displays, including steep dives and talon-locking cartwheels. Their nests, called eyries, are made of sticks and lined with softer materials like bark or pine needles. Some pairs return to the same nest for decades, adding new sticks each year until it weighs hundreds of pounds. Both parents usually share incubation duties, though the female typically spends more time on the eggs. Most hawks lay 1 to 5 eggs per year. Hawk chicks are born altricial, helpless, blind and covered in down, requiring constant care. In years where food is scarce, the oldest and strongest chick may kill its smaller siblings to ensure its own survival. Young hawks usually leave the nest, fledge, between 40 and 50 days after hatching. After fledging, parents often drop crippled prey in front of juveniles to teach them how to strike. In the wild, hawks typically live 10-20 years. In captivity, they can live over 30 years. The oldest recorded wild red-tailed hawk was over 30 years old. Migration and habitat. Swainson's hawks migrate up to 14,000 miles round trip from North America to Argentina. Unlike many songbirds that migrate at night, hawks migrate during the day to utilize thermals. During migration, thousands of hawks can be seen at bottlenecks, like Hawk Mountain in Pennsylvania. Some individuals in southern climates do not migrate at all if food remains abundant. You can find hawks in deserts, rainforests, tundras, and urban skyscrapers. Red-tailed hawks have become highly successful in cities like New York, nesting on apartment ledges and hunting pigeons. Taxonomy and diversity. There are more than 250 species in the Accipitridae family, though hawk usually refers to the subfamilies Butioninae and Accipitrinae. Ornithologists often consider members of the genus Accipiter to be the only true hawks. In Europe, the term buzzard refers to what Americans call hawks buteos. In the US, buzzard incorrectly refers to vultures. The little sparrowhawk is only about 8 inches long. The ferruginous hawk is the largest hawk in North America, with a wingspan of nearly 5 feet. Known as the phantom of the forest, they are highly aggressive and will attack humans who get too close to their nests. Common in swampy woods, they are recognized by their translucent windows near the wingtips in flight. Famous for forming massive kettles of thousands of birds during fall migration. One of the few hawks with feathers all the way down to its toes, an adaptation for the Arctic. Cultural and general trivia. Almost every eagle or hawk shown in movies uses the dubbed-over scream of a red-tailed hawk because it sounds more majestic. The god Horus was often depicted with the head of a hawk or falcon. Hawks have been trained for hunting by humans for over 4,000 years. In medieval Europe, the type of bird you carried, e.g., a goshawk, signaled your social rank. Many tribes view hawks as messengers and symbols of strength and foresight. In politics and economics, a hawk is someone who favors aggressive or interventionist policies. There is no biological species called a seahawk. The term usually refers to ospreys or squaw. Hawks provide millions of dollars in ecosystem services by controlling rodent populations on farms. Many hawks get almost all their required water from the moisture in their prey. Their heart can beat several hundred times per minute during intense flight. Most hawks molt, replace their feathers once a year, usually during the summer. Hawks are highly territorial. A pair of red-tailed hawks may defend a territory of up to 2 square miles. Despite their reputation, most hawks are relatively quiet, except during the breeding season. While highly intelligent, hawks generally do not pass the mirror test for self-recognition. Some species will drop whitewash feces on intruders to deter them from the nest. If a hawk's beak is damaged, it can sometimes grow back, much like a human fingernail. Hawks are meticulously symmetrical in their molt to ensure they remain flight-capable. They spend a significant portion of their day preening to keep their feathers aerodynamic. In Harris's hawk groups, the alpha is usually the dominant female. While diurnal, hawks still have better night vision than humans, though far inferior to owls. The pants or leg feathers on a hawk help streamline the bird during flight. During fights or mating rituals, hawks can lock their talons so tightly they cannot release them until they hit the ground. Some researchers believe hawks may be able to sense low-frequency sounds, infrasound, associated with weather patterns. A great black hawk can crush the skull of a small monkey with its grip. Their feathers have microscopic hooks called barbicels that zip together like Velcro. Hawks often wobble their heads or rouse, shake their feathers, to stay clean and aligned. Small hawk species must eat every day, while large ones can go several days between meals. Zone-tailed hawks look and fly like turkey vultures to trick prey into thinking they are harmless scavengers. While they prefer live kills, hawks will eat carrion, dead animals, if food is scarce. Hawks can see into the ultraviolet spectrum, allowing them to see the urine trails of rodents. The thumb feather on a hawk's wing, the alula, acts like a slot on an airplane wing to prevent stalling. Hawks are capable of insight learning, solving problems through observation. The Accipitridae family has existed for approximately 30 million years. Biologists study hawk pellets to track local rodent populations and ecosystem health. The ratio of body weight to wing surface area, wing loading, determines how fast a hawk can turn. The word raptor comes from the Latin rapere, meaning to seize or take by force. This is a collection of 20 real-life stories involving hawks, formatted as a script for storytelling. Each story is based on documented events and news reports from the last few years through May 2026. A broad-winged hawk misjudged the draft of a passing semi-truck and clipped its wing, tumbling onto the shoulder of I-95. For hours, cars whizzed by at 80 miles per hour, the bird's life hanging by a thread. Then a state trooper pulled over. He didn't have a net or a cage, so he did something extraordinary. He took off his official uniform jacket and gently wrapped the shivering predator in it. The officer and the outlaw sat together in the cruiser until rescuers arrived. A week later, the trooper stood in a quiet field, watched the bird stretch those wings and saw his partner vanish back into the clouds. The great golf ball heist. Imagine you've just hit the perfect drive. The ball is sitting pretty on the fairway. Suddenly a shadow sweeps across the grass. A red-tailed hawk drops from a saguaro, snatches your Titleist in its talons and rockets away. This wasn't a one-time fluke. Members at this club reported losing dozens of bulls. When researchers eventually used a drone to check the hawk's nest, they didn't find chicks. They found a shimmering treasure chest of 22 white golf balls. The hawk, it seems, was a frustrated parent who thought she had found the world's hardest, roundest eggs, 3. The library's silent guardian for years, the local library fought a losing battle against thousands of pigeons that were eroding the historic stonework with their droppings. Deterrent spikes and nets all failed. Then Dewey arrived. Dewey was a Cooper's hawk who decided the clock tower was the ultimate hunting perch. Within a month, the pigeon cloud vanished. The library staff didn't chase him away. They started a blog. Now children come not just for the books, but to sit in the Reading Garden and watch Dewey patrol the skies. The only security guard in the city who works for the price of a local pigeon. The Firestarter's secret for centuries. Indigenous groups told stories of firehawks, birds that intentionally spread wildfires. Western scientists were skeptical until a 2025-2026 study caught them in the act. As a small brush fire flickered, a brown hawk was filmed diving into the flames, picking up a smoldering stick in its talons and carrying it half a mile away to a patch of unburnt grass. Why? Because as the new fire erupted, terrified lizards and mice ran right into the hawk's waiting beak. It is one of the few documented cases in nature of a non-human animal using fire as a tactical hunting tool. The ghost of the skyscrapers. To the executives inside, the windows are a view. To a migrating hawk, they are invisible. In April 2026, a young hawk struck the glass with a thud that echoed through the office. Most birds die on impact, but this one was lucky. A Bird Alley volunteer found the hawk stunned on the sidewalk and rushed it to a rehab center. They treated its bird concussion with darkness and quiet. 2 weeks later, the bird was released from a city park. It circled once, shrieked a thanks that echoed off the glass towers, and headed north, finally learning to navigate the canyons of steel. The 14,000-mile navigator scientists attached a tiny, solar-powered GPS backpack to a Swainson's hawk named Sky. In the fall of 2025, Sky took off. The data showed her crossing the Rockies, navigating the Panama Canal, and soaring over the Amazon. She didn't use a map, but she never got lost. She traveled 7,000 miles to Argentina for the winter, and in May 2026, the GPS pinged back in the exact same Canadian field she started in. To Sky, the Earth isn't a collection of countries. It's a single giant thermal that she rides like a roller coaster across the hemispheres. The hawk and the hound, a coyote and a red-tailed hawk, were spotted hunting together, but they weren't friends. It was a business arrangement. The coyote would weave through the thick brush, flushing out rabbits. The rabbits, terrified of the coyote, would bolt into the open. That's when the hawk, hovering 50 feet up, would strike. If the rabbit stayed in the brush, the coyote ate. If it ran, the hawk ate. This commensal hunting shows that even the fiercest rivals can find a way to cooperate if it means they both end the day with a full stomach. The drone war of 2026. A tech giant launched a fleet of drones to deliver burritos and medicine. They didn't account for the resident hawk. Seeing a buzzing, four-winged intruder in its territory, the hawk didn't hide, it attacked. It learned that if it struck the propellers from above, the prey would fall. After 3 drones were knocked out of the sky, the company had to ground the fleet. The hawk didn't want the burritos. It wanted its airspace back. The company eventually had to hire an avian consultant to map out flight paths that didn't cross the hawk's no-fly zone. 9. The miracle of the concrete mixer. A hawk chasing a pigeon flew headfirst into the open. rotating drum of a concrete mixer. The operator didn't see it until he went to wash the machine out. Covered in grey, heavy sludge and unable to fly, the bird was minutes from death. Rescuers spent hours using toothbrushes and warm water to scrub the hardening cement from its feathers. Miraculously, the stonehawk survived. On May 1st, 2026, the construction crew gathered to watch the bird they had nearly built into a wall take flight again, its feathers clean and its spirit unbroken. The ultraviolet trail to us, the meadow is just grass. But to the hawk perched on the fence post, it's a neon map. New research has confirmed that hawks see in the ultraviolet spectrum. They can see the urine trails left by voles and mice, which glow like yellow brick roads under the sun's UV rays. The hawk isn't guessing where the mouse is. It is simply following the glowing trail to the source. It's a reminder that we only see a tiny fraction of the world, while the hawk sees the hidden electricity of life itself. 11. The Horus of the modern age. While excavating a small shrine, researchers found a perfectly preserved hawk mummy. But this wasn't a pet. It was a messenger. The ancient Egyptians believed hawks could fly between the world of the living and the world of the dead. In 2026, using modern CT scans, scientists found a small scroll tucked inside the bird's wrappings. It contained a prayer for a sick child. For 3,000 years, that hawk had been holding that message in its wings, a silent bridge between an ancient father's hope and our modern curiosity. The Hollywood imposter. You see a bald eagle on screen. It opens its beak and lets out a piercing, majestic scream. But here's the secret, that's a lie. Real bald eagles sound like high-pitched giggling seagulls. For decades, Hollywood has used the dubbed voice of the red-tailed hawk because it sounds tougher. Every time you hear that iconic eagle scream in a movie, you're actually listening to a hawk. It is the greatest case of identity theft in animal history. And the hawks have been the unsung voice actors of the silver screen for a century. The window into the soul. A vet is examining a hawk with a broken leg. She looks at the bird's eye. It's a pale, piercing yellow. She knows immediately this is a teenager. Most hawk species are born with light eyes that slowly turn deep brown or blood red as they reach maturity. By looking into their eyes, scientists can tell exactly how many winters a bird has survived. It's a biological clock built right into their gaze, a way for the bird to show the world that it has graduated from a clumsy fledgling to a master of the wind. The talon's grip. The squirrel fights back, but it's no use. A hawk's talons are not just sharp, they are locking. Once they squeeze, a specialized tendon in their leg ratchets shut like a zip tie. They can exert 200 pounds of pressure per square inch, strong enough to crush bone. They don't have to keep trying to hold on. Their body does it automatically. This allows them to hold on to heavy, thrashing prey while they fly, a mechanical marvel of nature that makes their feet the most dangerous landing gear on the planet. The rainwalker's pants. Most hawks have bare legs to stay cool, but the rough-legged hawk is different. It lives where the air can freeze a drop of water in seconds. To survive, it evolved feathered trousers, thick, downy feathers that go all the way down to its toes. In 2026, biologists found that these feathers don't just keep them warm. They act like snowshoes, allowing the bird to stand on soft snow without sinking while it waits for a lemming to pop its head out. Even in the harshest place on Earth, the hawk is dressed for the occasion. The mantle of mystery. You see the hawk, but then it disappears. It hunches its shoulders and spreads its wings in a wide tent-like shape over its food. This is called mantling. It's not just to hide the food from you, it's to hide it from other hawks. In the world of raptors, finders keepers only applies if you can hide what you found. by turning itself into a feathered umbrella. The hawk creates a private dining room in the middle of your lawn, proving that even a top predator knows the value of a little privacy. The social packs of the desert. Most hawks are loners, but Harris's hawks broke the rules. They hunt in families of up to 7. In a filmed hunt this spring, one hawk flushed a rabbit out of a bush, 2 more blocked the exits, and the 4th made the final strike. Then, most amazingly, they all sat together and shared the meal. They are the wolves of the sky, the only hawk species that has learned that by working together, they can take down prey far larger and faster than they ever could alone. The sea hawk that wasn't. The mascot flies out, a beautiful, fierce bird of prey. The announcer calls it a sea hawk, but if you ask a biologist, they'll smile. There is no such thing as a sea hawk. The bird you see is usually an osprey or an auger buzzard. In 2026, a local school project set out to find a real sea hawk and discovered that the name was actually a 19th century nickname for a skua. The sea hawk is a myth, but the birds that play the part are very real, proving that a good story is sometimes more powerful than a Latin name. And the sky dance of spring. They aren't hunting. Suddenly they dive toward each other. At the last second, they lock talons and begin to tumble through the air, spinning like a feathered windmill. They fall thousands of feet toward the jagged rocks below. Just before impact, they release and soar back up. This is the sky dance. It is a test of trust. If your partner doesn't let go, you both die. It is the most dangerous first date in the animal kingdom, a way of saying, I trust you with my life. The 30-million-year flight. Scientists recently sequenced the DNA of a hawk and compared it to fossils from 30 million years ago. The result? The hawk hasn't changed much. While mammals were evolving from tiny shrews into lions and humans, the hawk had already reached perfection. They found the winning formula early: incredible eyes, powerful wings, and lethal talons. When you look at a hawk on a telephone pole today, you aren't just looking at a bird. You are looking at a living prehistoric masterpiece that was finished long before we even started. This was a pleasure to make. I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as I enjoyed making it. More videos to follow. Please subscribe.